Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Experience. I'm your host, Steve Hartman, and my guest today is Lou Valentino. He is an astrologer who I've had the pleasure of interviewing, 25 years ago. I'm going back into the calendar and reaching back and finding some people that I've spoke to before. But a lot has gone on since then. He is the owner of the website yogavisionaries.com, and his creations could be found at the Astrological Varieties, which is part of that website. So you'll be able to find that there. He's also an author. He's written an ebook available on Amazon Kindle, Full Moon Messages from the Pleiadians, Introductions to a New Way of Living Life. You want to go and check that out, and we'll have that link up there as well. But I want to take this opportunity now to introduce Lou. Lou, thank you so much for deciding to come on the show. It's been a long time, and it's great to see you.
And of course, we go back 25 years ago in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, when you were doing the Experience interview of many people in different topics, but a lot of spiritual stuff, And so connecting with you has been an interesting feeling. I was thinking that my Patty Greco was my wife. She had passed over from breast cancer in March of 2009. So that's almost 16 years ago now. And she, I feel, is partly responsible for hooking us back up together again.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this, and I said this to you when we spoke prior to this. I was sad to hear that. And my condolences still. That can't be easy I can't imagine a more trying time than anything like that.
Thank you for your sympathies and your condolences. And I just want to mention that because if there's anybody watching out there that wonder, because she was a good psychic and she did psychic writing. She would write things out, automatic writing, and chant information and do ratings for people. So I just want to let everybody know that she's probably happier than we are. Because we're still here in a flesh body, and we have to continue to deal with all of the lessons on this planet that we're all learning, and we see it all the time on the news. I don't watch the news a lot, but every other day I'll tune in to see what's going on. So the mainstream media is when people leave their bodies, they leave this planet, they leave the karma. The karma is over on this planet. They take some of that with them because then in reincarnation, if they decide to come back here to continue to learn some of the lessons that they didn't do so well at, or maybe they want to finish up some business that they didn't do before until they feel like they're fully in balance, your soul, then you go into the fifth dimension. We're in the third dimension right now. And so the fourth dimension is more of a holding area where souls, hang out there and gather with old friends and family and all that.
So it's like Detroit. Flyover country. It's Detroit or O'Hare.
It's a lot more, of course, depending on if you decided that I often say you can get away with just about anything on this planet, but when you get to the other side, there's a review that you go through.
Have you ever, very off topic here, but have you ever seen the show The Good Place?
I haven't.
My goodness. For this topic, Ted Danson.
Writing this down, The Good Place.
It's on Netflix right now. I believe it's still on there. It was
Netflix, but is it on regular stations at all?
No, it used to be. It was. You might be able to find episodes on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure, but it's called The Good Place. It stars Ted Danson, and it's just. I can't really describe it. It really takes the issue of life after death and puts it in a very.
They have an angle that
they have an angle that captures you and really, really makes you think and like deep in thought and it's wonderful. It's really great. I couldn't
like a great show. Yeah.
I binge watched it a couple of times and it's beautiful. It actually ends quite beautifully. It's a great attempt. So, but as we get on, a little bit about you. So at what point in your life or at what age did you decide that you wanted to learn astrology? Like, what was that aha moment for you that said, this is the direction I want to go?
Well, when I started meditating at the age of 20, right now I'm 66 years old. I've been meditating every day, twice a day, and I've never stopped and gone back every day for, it's been, 47 years now, I think. And then when I met a friend of mine from the organization, it was Transcendental Meditation at the age of 26. So 6 years later, he was into astrology, but he said, do you know what your chart looks like? I says, no, I have no idea. I didn't know anything about much, erecting a chart. So he had done a chart for me and then he gave it to me and explained it. And that's what I thought. I got interested. I started reading more books. I started, thinking, maybe after a few years of reading books that could start maybe doing a reading for people and, not charge anything. I wasn't charging. I wasn't totally professional, but that's how I got into it. So at the age of 26, like I said, chronologically, I'm 66 now. So that was 40 years ago. And I just got the feeling like this was something that I really wanted to dive in more deeply. Music, philosophy, and astrology, those are my three main interests in life.
Now, was there a time that you determined, well, not you determined, but you discovered that, wow, those round things above us really do play a role in how we live? Like, was there an aha moment that's like, yeah, this actually makes a difference or influences us?
For me, it was the meditation that actually, once I started quieting the mind down and bypassing the intellect. This is the problem with our planet, is everybody's very intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to figure it all out. It's very much the psychology of Western man. If we don't figure every little detail out and analyze every piece of garbage, we're never going to get to a point of balance. We never get to the point of peace and balance on this planet because everybody's too busy intellectualizing. If they would just close their eyes and allow the mind to sink, then you discover that there is another part of you that is much more expanded and at peace with itself. And when you get to that point, you feel connected to everything in the universe. So that's the connection for me is, wow, I'm really connected to myself. I can't believe that there is life that's so unbounded and not so restricted to intellectual thoughts all the time. And when that happened, that connected me to the whole universe. So the planets were just another expression of that infinite creative intelligence that I was experiencing with the silence. Having a relationship with silence is spirituality. Communicating with souls and channeling and all this, that's the spirit world that you're communicating with. But spirituality, the essence of spirituality is basically silence. It's moving into that area of unmanifest kind of, I guess you could use the word, or unbounded awareness is another term. And when you go into the deep state of rest, of course, that releases a lot of stress in the nervous system. So having done that, my point is I'm connected to feeling the energy of the planets. So astrology is more of an esoteric science. It's not necessarily just astronomy. Astronomy is more intellectual. It gets into specifics about a planet. Does this planet have water on it? What's the oxygen like? What does it look like? But astrologers are more interested, at least if a lot of astrologers don't meditate every day, but if they're into spirituality, a lot of them are meditating, then they will try to hone in on the energy of that specific planet, that planet's personality. Mercury is about communication. That's its personality. Jupiter is about traveling and studying different subjects, and advertisement. So each planet has a personality, and you're trying to hone in into the birth chart and see how that's integrating into the personality of the person that you're doing a reading for, because that's going to depict a lot of the lessons they're trying to learn in this lifetime, maybe some talents that they have. This is really a wonderful tool for people who are, especially at the end of high school going into college, where you're not sure what you should major in. Gee, what do I really, maybe not be sure. Some people are I just met somebody at the post office. She was born in the sign of Leo, a little child. She probably was 3 years old. And we got to talk to the mother. She already knew everything she was going to do in her life. And that really amazed me. Can you imagine a 3-year-old already talking about exactly what she wanted to do with her life and what she would enjoy doing?
Well, at that age, they're probably still close to, if there is any reincarnation influences on a child that little, they may have already said, as they make that transformation in this lifetime, this is what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
and go in that way. Now,
Most of us takes us, till we get till the second year in college before we figure out what we want to do or major
or
in.
when you get to be 56 and like me. Now, how do we know which planets have which personalities? Like you referenced Jupiter being the personality of like.
Yeah, Jupiter could be the happy-go-lucky. You as you study astrology, you get to know the personality of the planets.
Are these assigned from like when the planets were discovered and like ancient,
Yeah,
Greeks, and they had the god of war, Mars being the god of war, and they had those kind of labels attached to them. But is that kind of where the ancients, that's where it kind of stemmed from, that kind of gave the characteristics of each planet?
yes, it stems from different cultures. The Greeks, India is another country that doesn't get mentioned enough, but it's not that it's better than other countries, but to me, it's the most philosophical country on the planet. It has its problems like every country does, India, but there is a depth of philosophy and spirituality there. A prevalent amount of philosophers and spiritualists have been born in India, So, so astrology stems from, astronomy and a combination of these ancient cultures like the Greeks, India. India's astrology is called Vedic astrology, and it's different than our Western astrology in terms of the timing of events and stuff. And that's something you don't want to get into because that could be a whole subject.
Well, in your bio, and if people visit your website at yogavisionaries.com, you actually talk about briefly that you practice both types, Western and what was it, Vedic? And so without going into the weeds, how significant and detailed differences does, say, the Western, if you were to do a Western reading and as opposed to a Vedic reading, how far is one good for something and another good for something else? I mean, how does...
I think if you're born in India, you should stick with just the Indian astrology. Astrologers are starting to take sides, that one might be more accurate in its timing of events than the other, and then the personality changes because there's 30 degrees orbs in astrology. So 30 days in a calendar month generally, there's these 30 degrees the sun goes through, and each day is a degree. So in Vedic, it's a 24-degree difference. It's called sidereal astrology versus tropical. So the starting point to analyze a chart from the skies is different. And so I'm a Pisces in Western, but I'm born on the sign of Aquarius in India.
So you would be reading two horoscopes in the moon, and you'd have one that you'd read in the Indian newspaper, and then you'd have one in, like, say, USA Today.
Yeah, and the newspapers are kind of superficial because they're not based on your exact birth time or the city and state that you're born.
They're generality.
They are very generality, and it's kind of throwing darts at a dartboard with that kind of thing.
It is interesting to me that whether people believe it or not, I always like using the full moon example, but there's a good portion of the population that acts all just beyond oh hell no when a full moon comes up, which has always been something to me like, no, there's something here. I mean, for everybody to like go off the rails when the moon is full, I'm like, yeah, this is not too far-fetched.
Yeah, it's scientifically proven that the ocean, the fluid swells more on a full moon. It grows. So the ocean's high tide, one of the things that meteorologists don't like is when, there's a situation coming up and then it's at the same time there's a hurricane or a big storm, it's high tide also at the same time because it only increases the level of, the waves and the water that's going to come up on shore. So yes, it is scientifically proven that the moon does have an influence, more than I think any other planet, because the moon is closest to the Earth.
Well, let's go into a little bit of what we're leaving. I know for me personally, the last from March of 2024 till January 1st. I couldn't wait for 2024 to leave.
Yeah.
Like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I mean, there was a lot.
Your life personally, you're talking about?
In my personal health life, it was a roller coaster in both health and personal wise. There was a lot that was going on. So that's why I'm like, what can we see leaving 2024 as we now got into? Well, we're now into 2025. What would you say is going to be the most significant, a generality of of a difference of what we've experienced just now to what we are going to be experiencing this year?
Well, I think 2024, it was very tenacious. There was wars were very prevalent. You had the political electional cycles going on. And so I think 2024 is going to be like a picnic compared to 2025, right? Even though it was intense. In 2025, we have, I think, 5 or 6 planets, I lost count, that are moving into new signs. And we normally don't have that many planets moving into new constellations within a year period. That's
okay.
So that means that there's signs that are going to be going through at least 6 signs this year that are experiencing the most growth. The most growth is going to go with Pisces, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Aries, and Gemini. Okay, those are going to be the 6 signs that will go through the most growth.
I want to write those down. Can you repeat them again, please?
It's the sign of Pisces, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Aries, and Gemini. Now, this doesn't mean that the other signs aren't going to go through a lot of growth. It's just that they're not going to go through as much of a shift in their awareness, because most of the signs that I just mentioned have new planets moving into the signs. Pluto has been in and out of Capricorn and Aquarius since 2000. I think the middle of 2023. It moved into Aquarius permanently as of November the 19th of 2024. Pluto takes the longest to go through a constellation. It takes 13 to 20 years for it to move through a sign. So it's only going to move through a few houses in your birth chart in a whole lifetime. So that happened on November the 19th, 2024, where now we have Pluto for a 20-year period from 2024 to 2044 is going to stay in Aquarius. So the sign of Aquarius is going to be going through its own transformations. Pluto is the planet that causes transformation. Most of what we're seeing with the instability of Mother Nature, I'm talking about the fires, recently in California, we had them in Maui, we had hurricanes hit Florida, we got all this instability in nature happening, is because Pluto is trying to settle into a new sign. It takes 3 degrees, there's 30-degree orbs in astrology. It takes the planet to get to 3 degrees to finally settle into that sign. That's not going to happen until the end of 2026, beginning of 2027. So Pluto is on the move of purifying life. It wants to rehabilitate the world. So the physical world is very challenged when Pluto is in Aquarius, because it wants to move not only into a new sign, but we're moving into a new age. And Pluto is magnifying the issues surrounding self-empowerment, because Aquarius is an independent sign. It's not like Capricorn. Pluto was in Capricorn from like 2007 to recently, November the 19th of 2024. And Capricorn is more traditional. It likes to stick with things the way they are. Aquarius isn't like that. It's the rebel of the zodiac. So we are finding that over 2024, but especially in 2025, 26, and 2027, more and more humans are waking up to the idea of wanting to become more self-empowered, realizing that they're giving their power away to institutions all the time. An example of this is what I just heard last night on TV from the fires in California And our hearts go out to everybody in this area of California and even in Florida and North Carolina or wherever they're experiencing a lack of stability in their residential home. They don't have a home. They don't have a place to, especially, with these fires. There was a couple on last night, a married couple. They just bought a home and now that got burnt down in the fire in California. And she's starting to cry a little bit. He's talking about it, the husband. And it's something that she said that I knew. She said that the bank where they have the mortgage on their home, they're going to give them 3 months where they don't have to pay the mortgage
for a house they don't have anymore.
For a house they don't have anymore, and interest is still active during the 3 months.
Of course.
Now, as human beings on this planet start to get more in touch with the idea that they've given their lives over to institutions. They've given all their money over to them, and that they're not doing them any favors. So the international banking families, they're going to go through this shift because we're going to be moving into a different financial system. I've heard somebody call it the quantum financial system, I think. I think that was QFS. That would be a first step towards becoming more. That's a Bitcoin and all these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Getting away from the money being controlled by international banking families and having more control of your own. That's the first step. Because in the higher worlds, in higher dimensions, different extraterrestrial races, they don't have any form of money there.
Yeah, we're a long way from getting to that level of...
We're not. We're not a long ways. No. It probably is going to happen within the next 5 years. There's going to be a major change. I'm not saying people are going to be flipping out because they're not used to that on this planet. They've been enslaved by some institution or some culture, some gods or whatever for so many, at least the last 30 to 40,000 years, that it's going to take time for them to make the adjustment. But when the changes start happening, it's going to be pretty quick. It's not going to be as long as people think.
Well, I hope that's the case. I think we talked about this also. The world is definitely woken up to things can't being what they've been. And so I think we're going to...
That's Pluto in Aquarius is the idea of creating adjustments that need to be made regardless if human beings enjoy it or not, or want to change or not. Sometimes we don't have a choice but to change. Even when Patty died, I didn't have a choice with that. I had to accept that. Or my childhood was very abusive. So, my alcoholic father or my bipolar stepfather, who almost killed my mother 2 times in front of me, it was very violent. I didn't have a choice in that matter to what I wanted to do. I was a child. So I think there are certain situations in our life where we grow the most spiritually, at least for now, when we don't have a choice but to be more flexible and make it and adapt to a new situation. That's the new age. If we're going to move into a new age, then we have to get rid of the old and embrace the new.
Well, we are creatures that adapt, and usually we have to get to that rock bottom to make those changes, whether it's rock bottom society, rock bottom personally. We don't find our aha moments usually when we're doing good. Usually we find those aha moments when there's nothing else to find but that.
Yeah. If you don't meditate every day, because the aha moments are there every day for me, twice a day when I meditate. But a lot of people don't, and they don't know how to, or they don't know where to find, or they say it's too hard, or they don't have the time for it. But that bliss is there deep down inside of us. That aha moment is there to have. It's our birthright, really.
Right.
Have that aha moment.
Well, the way I like to think of it very quickly is that we don't know half of the stuff that our brain is capable of. So we're absorbing so much noise, so much media from so many different directions that in order to actually tune into those useful vibrations, one does need to quiet the mind and meditate. And I think this is something we do kind of really all know, but we haven't really accepted it within ourselves to do that. And I believe that when each of us is able to get to that level of quieting the mind, I agree. I believe that so many things can be revealed. And
one of the things that I don't mean to cut you off, but one of the things that 2025 is going to happen Because if we're going to start, I would call it the year of disclosures.
I believe that too. I believe that too.
And the healthcare industry is going to go through a lot this year and in 2026 because the leaders of healthcare, education, politics, religion, they're not encouraging their citizens to get involved in holistic healthcare. Holistic healthcare has been held hostage all these years by the American Medical Association and the Food and Drug Administration and the Federal Trade Commission. They don't want people to get healthy. They don't want people to really know that
there's no money in that.
There's no money in it. That's right. So there you go. So, but it's up to us to become educated now that the YouTube channels are going in and interviewers like yourself, we're educating people beyond what institution has been controlling all these years, all the knowledge and information. So now people are really finding out more knowledge. Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, that's cool. And there's a lot of knowledge just pouring out on the internet. You know?
And people taking it upon themselves to seek it out. They're not just buying what everybody's telling them. They're actually going and doing their own research now. And I think that's going to be a big thing too. All right. So what I'd like to do is you gave mention of 6 signs, Pisces,
Yes.
Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Aries, and Gemini, as the 6 that are going to be experiencing the most growth, I think you had said.
That is the most growth.
Okay. So if we could maybe break down like one sign at a time, Pisces.
Yes.
What do you think for a Pisces that they can expect in that time frame? And we'll just break down of those 6 signs so we can kind of get an idea of like
the Pisces out of all the signs this year are going to have the best year, of their life. They will grow up. Why? Because the North Node, which is, it looks like a right-sided pair of headphones on the astrology chart. In your chart, I'm not going to talk about it, right, but I just want to point out what it looks like. The North Node is here in your 7th house of one-to-one partnerships. See it right there? It looks like an upright headphone set, and then the South Node is an upside-down pair of headphones. The North Node, it takes 18 months to go through sign. So it just went into Pisces on January 13th of 2020. And the North Node is where we grow. It's where we learn our lessons the most because it's what we fear a little bit about expanding our lives, our abilities, things that we really want to do to help us grow. The South Node is more like a comfortable couch that you've been sitting on that you learn from past lives that you're comfortable with. So even though there's an uncomfortableness, there's an opportunity for Pisces to fulfill their dreams this year, to even if they don't completely fill their dreams, but to at least be able to move forward, to feel like they're moving in a better direction that they've ever been, before. And that's good news for Pisces. Pisces needs to get out of the clouds and get into reality, be grounded here. They have an opportunity to give up addictive behaviors that may be holding them back in their lives.
Okay. And what about Virgo?
Virgo is Virgo is affiliated with the health system, with health. They're the healers of the zodiac. A lot of healers have Virgo energy. A lot of doctors and nurses have Virgo energy. So the South Node is about opening up certain lessons that haven't been looked at for a while. So Virgo is going to go through some losses sometimes this year that will drive them more deeply into themselves to decide what they would like to do with their lives, what directions that they want to take, especially for the next 18 months, because that's the North and South Node. They tend to go about an 18 months, a year and a half cycle. So it's not that Virgo is going to have a bad year. It's just that they're a little bit tested more about their past relationships. Their past tends to come up. So they want to heal their past issues and move forward.
And not necessarily relationships, but just, would you say it's more of more experiences coming to put things in perspective, to really focus on their...
That can be a very spiritual awakening for Virgo because it's like we were saying before, through loss, unless you're doing some spiritual techniques regularly and you're focusing on that, you're growing in bliss more, you're releasing stress more, life is a little bit lighter, you have more elbow room. Okay, more confidence. It will be a year for Virgo and the healthcare system in general that it will be challenged. We may get another health scare of some sort. I don't know if it will be as major.
I think you said that. It's funny you use the word scare. because they tend to like using that in order to get what they'd like to get. Had I known now or then what I know now, which is funny, I kind of had a feeling back then when the thing came in, and I was kind of manipulated in order to receive the vaccination for COVID, because they held everything up for it. You couldn't work, you couldn't do this unless you had this, and I'm like, that's the income. That's my food. I cannot not eat. I have to have these things. So, and as does everybody else. And I wish I had more of a stubborn, or I wish I was in a different position, because I kind of knew, like, you can't have one thing show up and then all of a sudden the flu disappears and then the flu comes back. So it's like, it either is or it isn't. It's either going to be effective or it's not going to be effective. And no matter how many times we take the shot and it's still not effective, you can't change the effectiveness. You can't go from it's going to give you this to then go down to give you this. And then you have 6 boosters and you're still contracting and still giving the disease away.
With America, I should be the president of the United States. I probably would get killed within a few days because they don't want to hear the truth. There's certain people that don't want you. But the main thing is, unless any country emphasizes holistic healthcare to strengthen the immune system, we're always going to have health problems like this that are scary. That's the main thing. If the United States had introduced and really took holistic healthcare seriously like 30, 40 years ago, and said people should be meditating, they should be taking high quality vitamin and mineral supplements and herbal supplements and all that, then we would have been in a much better position to handle our immune system, to handle something like COVID. I'm not saying it's the answer to a virus. Viruses are different, but it's just that we're weak, and then people, by the age of 50, 60, they're taking all these pharmaceutical drugs, and that's also beating up the immune system. All right. Even though it's masking the pain or whatever they're going through.
And causing other issues.
Yeah. I mean, even
the taking of them, I don't mean to interrupt, but the taking of the certain medications that they always say, you hear that whole list of, make all this. That's solving one thing, but it's causing all these other things in reaction to that.
And I'm not here to promote and say that people should not be listening to their physicians. They should be. Okay. If I have something really going wrong, I'm going to a doctor. We have probably the best emergency medical care in the United States out of any country, but we do not have an awareness, and a lot of countries don't, of holistic health care and what that can offer.
Leo
is interesting to start off the year because Mars went retrograde. Now, retrograde means the planet appears to be moving backwards from the standpoint of the Earth. And it started retrograde on December the 6th of 2024, and it's not going to station direct until February 24th of 2025. But it started at the beginning degrees of Leo, so 6 degrees of Leo, and then it went back into the sign of Cancer. So now it's in Cancer, the sign of Cancer. And those 2 signs are reevaluating their health, especially their energy levels. Because when a planet is retrograde, it's going subjectively, it's internalizing. You're going more this way with the energy instead of forward with the energy. And Mars deals with strength of the immune system. It deals with physical vitality, and feeling strong, feeling like you really want to get up and go. So since December the 6th of 2024, probably till March 1st, those who have either Leo or Cancer dominating in their birth chart, either planets, the sun, moon, rising, or planets in those signs, they may feel like their energy levels have been very low. And they're dealing with the idea of, dear Lord, it's one thing about the hibernation season here in New England in the winter, but I feel like a truck just ran me over and it keeps going on. Is this ever going to end?
Ever since daylight savings time, once it's dark, I'm in bed. It's hard to, I can't.
Hopefully they'll do away with daylight savings soon. But yeah, that's for Leo and Cancer, at least till, I would say, all through March too. It gets better after February 24th. where you feel like your energy levels are starting to come back. So it's not like, but Mars isn't going to be totally out of its retrograde shadow till May 1st.
Okay.
So,
and you mentioned Cancer after that. So would you say Leo and Cancer are pretty much...
They should pay attention to their health. That's my point. Get plenty of rest. Yeah, the life isn't set up to be in the rhythm of the universe. It's controlled by an international banking system. Even though Mars is retrograde and you should be in bed half of the day, that's what it's asking you to do. The international banking families are saying, we don't care. You got to pay your mortgage on time. You got to pay your car loan on time. You got to pay your credit cards on time. So
can we get a comet to land on the international banking system?
You can tell I don't like you, right?
What sign is that? That's the sign of destruction. Can you leave that?
Yeah. And I mean, it could be better. Example, the couple that I saw last night on TV in California. Wouldn't it be nice if the international banking families said, why don't we forgive the debt of all those mortgages? See what I'm saying? There's no compassion in our financial system. We're giving all our money over to families that don't have any compassion for us. They don't care about us. They're going to eat caviar at lunchtime while our houses are burning down and we still have to pay a mortgage. That's really sick, really evil. And evil is live spelled backwards.
Yeah, and I do believe that we're going to see a very sharp turn to accountability and
yes,
and a new. I believe we're going to see some changes. I feel it. I felt it coming for a long time because there's only so much time that the status quo can stay the status quo before everybody says, wait, this is just bonkers.
Yeah, it's unfortunately that there has to be so much destruction in life before humans can wake up and just, get back into balance, with peace and love and that sort of thing, and unity.
So that brings us to Aries. What do the Aries folks, what can they expect?
There's a lot of opportunity coming up from May of 2025 to May of 2029. So we got a 4-year period here where there is going to be, is that me with the sirens?
No, that's beautiful downtown Manchester, unfortunately. Yeah, they're watching. They're coming to get you.
No, there's an emergency here when we're talking about the sign of the Aries. Aries rules, Mars rules Aries. So it's into military and emergency situations, like what we just heard from the fire department. Thank God for firefighters. Yeah, there's a minor grand trine that's going to happen in this year, 2025. This is what it looks like. Now, a regular trine, these are different aspects in astrology. That's how big it looks. But the minor grand trine is half the size of it. It's still in a triangle formation, and it offers opportunities in life to grow with divine grace, with the wind at your back, the trine. This date is August the 25th of 2025. And it's in August that this first minor grand trine is manifesting, and Aries is involved in this, getting back to Aries. So the planet that's going into Aries, let's see, we have Saturn moves into Aries on May 24th. But the trine really has Neptune at the center of it. That's going to go into Aries. I'm looking at a chart. That's why I'm looking over. On March 29th of 2025. So at the beginning of April, Aries is going to be able to grow. Now, Aries already has been going through a lot of growth over the last 1.5 to 2 years. You may have experienced that yourself personally, because when I looked at your chart, you have the North Node, Saturn, Chiron, and the part of fortune all in Aries, and they're all in the 7th house. So here they are right here. See it?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all in Aries. And what does the 7th house deal with? It deals with relationships of all kinds. So you may have gone through some really rocky stuff over the last 1.5, 2 years in your personal life. Okay. Does that sound right? Or
Well, I mean, my personal life has
to a lot of detail.
I look at, like I said, 2024, last 6 months of 2024 had engulfed so many aspects, health, personal, they were all intertwined. So I would say it was a very convoluted, structural, stressful web
Yeah.
of
Relate.
instability.
Yeah, and the chaos was with other people who are helping you get to the chaos,
Yes.
or even causing it.
No, not causing. One person was helping me actually navigate through.
There you go.
You need to have that one rock. There was enough obstacles that were seemingly coming out of nowhere. And
Because from May of 2025 to May of 2029, you're going to get a lot of benefit from others. Others are going to be actually supporting you, your career, your personal life. This is what the minor grand trine is bringing to you personally. So go ahead.
No, I was just taking a breath.
So when I do a reading for people, especially this year in 2026, 2027, I'm going to be looking at that minor grand trine and how it is helping because it's such a positive energy. It's one thing to have a trine on its own, but that's very relaxed. It's almost too relaxed unless something else is like a square in the chart is making it come alive. But when you have a minor grand trine, the sextiles are actually helping to manifest this divine grace. In other words, you fulfill your desires more easily. Depending on the houses the minor grand trine is, because Neptune is going into Aries, the sign of Aries. That's the reason why Aries is going to be able to have a much more spiritual kind of expanded awareness. And Neptune is more about the lovelier realms in creation, higher dimensions. So they may be becoming more spiritual is my point.
All right. And then that brings us down to the sixth one, Gemini. What do the Geminis have to look forward to?
This is going to be a time when Gemini, because of the minor grand trine, Uranus is going to move into Gemini, and that is going to happen on July 7th of this year. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, and Mercury kind of rules your chart strongly. And Mercury is about communication in all forms. Doing an interview with somebody, you have to be able to communicate pretty good, which you do. So Gemini is the teacher, it's the communicator of the zodiac. It rules education from grades K till your high school graduation. Gemini is about information being written down, or a journalist or a radio host show, anything that deals with communication, sending people emails, TikTok, all these social, is about Mercury communication. So when it goes into Gemini, it's going into Gemini. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. This is like a download into our consciousness from other realms that all of a sudden we wake up and Gemini could be like, wow, I didn't even think about that before. That's interesting. So the creative abilities in relationship to their social life and communication skills is going to be increased significantly from May of 2025 to May of 2029. But as Uranus moves into Gemini on July 7th, that would be starting to get into the heart of this minor grand trine, which is most fertile in August and September. But it really starts the end of June, July, all the way till the end of November. But the most fertile time, when it's very tight, the orbs and everything, is in the second half of August to the end of September. But as it moves into Gemini on July 7th, it'll start. It's not like it's just all of a sudden in August, everything. Yeah, it's going to start. So Gemini is going to be, they're already intelligent anyhow. I mean, Gemini is it's a personal intellectual sign. Most of the Geminis that I've met, you wonder when they're going to have a bad day. You really get jealous of them. They're kind of like, they can be really perfect in a lot of ways. That we clear intellect, being able to communicate, having a positive attitude all the time. Sometimes they lack depth. I'm being kind here in terms of sensitivity towards other people's feelings and stuff. They don't want to hear about all that stuff. They want to get to work and let's have fun and da-da-da-da. So it can be a little bit superficial. I think Uranus is going to spiritualize Gemini more. Uranus is also affiliated with electricity. So the Kundalini energy that spiritualists talk about from the spine, moving up the spine and opening up the chakras, that's going to activate Gemini pretty strongly.
Okay. Now, if anyone is interested, we're going to be going into, you asked me for some information, and I gave you some. You had shown up a little bit of a chart there. So if people want to have their chart done, go to yogavisionaries.com. I'm going to put the link in the description below, and you can see all of the ways that Lou can create many different charts for you and give you an idea. That's what he's going to show you now is he did my chart. So if you're curious, what is a chart? What does that look like? And we decided to use me as an example. So describe the chart you did for me with the information that I gave to you, which was my birthday, my time of birth, the city and state of my birth. Well, here, I think that was it.
Yeah, here's your chart. Now, I obviously put in colors the minor grand trine, what houses it's going to affect in your chart. But you're born in the sign of Libra. See, the sun in Libra, and it's in the first house, normally ruled by Aries. So I would say if you read about astrology, about your personality, read about Aries and Libra and put them together. You're not just one sign, because look at all the planets. There's like at least 10 planets to look at. Your rising sign is here. It's Virgo. And you have 3 planets in Virgo in the 12th house. So Mercury is ruling your rising sign. Your rising sign is what people see when they first meet you. It rules your physical body. It's not superficial. It's just that it's very physical, because when people first meet you, they get to look at you, what you look like, and how you package yourself, how you sell yourself. With having Virgo rising, I don't know if you've ever been interested in healthcare professions. Were you ever thinking about being a male nurse or a doctor or anything like that?
No, I knew I didn't have the intellectual capacity to study for all of that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the drive or the mind frame. I did work in human services for a while as in case management and such.
Yeah.
But as far as, and I do care for other human beings, but I would not want the I could not have the responsibility of actually thinking could potentially be responsible for the life of someone.
Well, so I don't want to get stuck just on that one thing. For Virgo is also clerical. They make great secretaries. They don't like to be in the spotlight. They actually would rather be in the background supporting others, which in an interview you're kind of doing. You're in the spotlight, but you're supporting the person that you're interviewing, and it does deal with all forms of communication. Okay. So that's the Virgo rising. Then you have the moon, your emotions and your subconscious habits, and the sign of Taurus. And so that's exalted. That means it's strong, a stable emotion. Emotionally, you're stable and you're practical, and you don't go over and get too dramatic about things.
Well, there was a time years ago when I was, but then I would say after my 30s, late 20s, early 30s, intellectually, it's like I had an aha moment. I hate using that phrase a lot, but there comes a time when you're just like, why waste this energy? The energy doesn't need to go that way.
Right. And the thing in your chart that I would point out that's most prevalent is relationships. You have the relationship with you and how you feel in the sign of Libra. Look at the sun, the south node, and Uranus. And Libra is about the 7th house, others. But you have all this Aries energy, which normally rules the first. These are opposite signs, Libra and Aries. You have all this Aries in the 7th house. So relationships are a huge lesson for you in terms of being patient and trying to deal with people. My chart also, just to join hands with you, I don't have a great chart for relationships. I suck at it. I'm a good man, a giving person and all that. But relationships require, and everybody listening to this, it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of expectations from everybody. Once you start falling in love with somebody, well, they have a family. Now the family has their expectations. You're living up to all these So in your chart, it would show that relationships would be, like for everybody, they mirror our lessons in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you may not be that patient with relationships. Like you said, up to the age of 30, you might have been less patient. Aries is not a patient sign. And in relationships, it requires some patience to navigate through the relationship and trying to adapt and please your partner the best way that you can without sacrificing your own integrity or, that kind of stuff that goes on. So relationships become, am I sounding right with you?
The last 8-9 years, I think, has been probably the most solid in a way of understanding how to, because there's so many different types of relationships.
How to navigate. Yeah.
Not necessarily how to navigate them, because I'm not a very big fan of that word. Navigating can make it feel like it's avoidance or trying to steer clear of certain things. I'm very open, honest, and blunt with pretty much everybody. It's been a vein of my existence for quite some while. Employer, nope, not working right for me. I'm going to let you know. It's just one of those things. So I don't hold or sugarcoat things like I used to anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And because I feel that time is very limited. We don't know when we're here and when we're not. And anything other than being true to what is going on in our given mind at any given time feels like we're not serving our purpose, and we're not serving the person we're interacting with purpose. We're being something that we're not. So I always try to be as honest and forthright, and like you, I'm caring, I'm giving, I'm generous. There's one very, very, very dear friend of mine who got me through, was a rock for me during that period of time. And I know I feel like I'll come up short in aspects to that. Not that I want to. It's just sometimes you feel like there's never you can never get to the level that you want to be.
This is your lessons in this chart. The most lessons are in relationships. That's why you're having, it wouldn't be if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be a lesson, would it? Sometimes relationships can be the clearest mirror of what we're supposed to be learning for ourselves. And so that's why you're saying what you're saying, because it's like I see it in you. I mean, it's like relationships and the psychology of relationships and how you deal with them emotionally and spiritually. That would be a main theme in your life by looking at this chart. You're not going to be isolated somewhere and just working on a car like a mechanic, or you're a people person is my.
Mm-hmm. I try to be.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're on a show, you're doing a show, you'll get there. Especially when the minor grand trine kicks in, you're going to be growing a lot.
And that's happening when?
From May of 2025 to May of 2029, you're going to have a lot of growth in the area of your business and people. A lot of people will be helping you into opportunities that are going to be coming up.
Well, I hope they're watching this episode so they can be aware.
Because this is where the 1 degree of Aries is. It's Neptune's going to so spiritual. People will be attracted to you. Like, for instance, our relationship, all of a sudden.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd hear from me again out of the...
I've been through so much in the last 25 years. It's pathetic. I mean, I've been through hell and back the last 25 years. So I even thought, was it in Fitchburg? Was it?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where I interviewed by you, but I thought I think I do remember him, and he was a good interviewer. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So people want to get a reading like that. Like I said, go to yogavisionaries.com and you can find everything you need or want to learn on that website. There's also, Lou has a YouTube channel that is available. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below as well. And the name of his book, which we're going to have you, hopefully you'll come on again to talk about this topic, because this is also one worth discussing. Full Moon Messages from the Pleiadians, Introduction to a New Way of Living Life. That's going to be available as a Kindle download on Amazon.com, and I'll have a link to that also in the description.
Yes, it is available now. It's like $9.99 or something like that.
Yeah. So, Lou, thank you again so much for coming on the show. It has been a great seeing you virtually again.
Yes.
And great having this conversation. I hope people take advantage and reach out to you wanting to learn more. You are a wealth of information on so many topics. And I think there's so many different things we can discuss in future episodes. I wanted to focus on the astrology for the first one because for my head, that's kind of the easiest to absorb so quick in its basics. And also, it seems to be something that a lot of people are interested in, especially after hearing Mercury's a retrograde all year plus last year. I was so tired of hearing that. Can something else please go into retrograde? Because I'm tired of that being the excuse for everything.
So other thing in the future, just like during that May of 2025 to May of 2029, we could have UFO contact in a major scale. We already been having it for a long time, but I'm talking about it's where people are,
That's another reason why I want to have you come on again within the next
that's another thing to look
couple of months. Hopefully we can set something up. So, all right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely have you on again, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
I value your time, and it was good to see you.
Good to see you too. You take care. God bless.
Take care.